And a blood case, which we do, we have blood kits, but we don't just.
Shares very happy. And can we go to on your name? Yeah, have you?
No, we wouldn't be able to do that.
If it's
Hospital, take it to the hospital.
Yeah.
I know that Peter and Marissa are planning to come, they texted me, or should we give them another day? Or is it not coming? No. Oh, she's they're being like, oh, yeah, I didn't know. Oh, yeah, Rosie's here. She gave water. Okay. Yeah, it's like, I get you for like 30 days. Are we good? Okay. Ready if you want? Okay, ready if you want. Let me know. Leave me there. Awesome. I'd like to call the regular meeting of the North Main Street Task Force in order. I'm Councilman Sue Anderswall and Chair of the committee. Can we please call the roll? Chair Anderswall. I'm here. Vice Chair Committee.
Here.
Lieutenant Brown.
Present.
Marissa Lowe. Absent. Rachel Peterson. Absent. Peter Camara. Absent. Thomas Hadaway. Absent. Sarah Engel. Present. Jessica Lynn. Present. Nate Urso.
Present.
Sean Michael.
Here.
Rosie Jaswell. Here. We have 8 present for absent and 4. Awesome, thank you so much. I know we got this comment at a prior meeting about folks watching online wanting to know who we all were, so I'm gonna just we just go around the table and have everyone say their name and where they work, like or why they're at the table, just because I know that's helpful for the people online. So I'm Sue Vanderwall, I'm the councilwoman for Ward 3, I'm the chair of the task force. North Main Street is in Ward 3. Do I go next?
Sure, Bill Brown representing Providence PD.
Nate Urso, I manage traffic engineering in the Department of Public Works.
I'm Jessica Lance, the Director of Special Projects for the Department of Planning and Development in the city. We do a lot of the neighborhood level planning and transportation planning in the city.
I'm Sarah Engel. I'm Ripton's Director of Planning.
Kyle Delgado, Director of Problem Management for Council.
The policy analyst and the city council. Director Bolsville, I'm the assistant clerk and city clerk.
Claire Gerard, Clerk Liaison, Clerk of the Committee.
I'm Rosie Jaswell. I'm the Green and Complete Streets Advisory Council representative on this body. I'm also a transportation engineer.
Sean Raymond, Managing Engineer at Rhode Island Department of Transportation.
Jamie Behavian, I'm the Vice Chair of the Task Force and here representing the Providence Streets Coalition.
It was special, I think, the council staff who are here. So thank you guys. And the clerk's office, as well as the solicitor. Thank you so much for being here. We are going to get started. And as just a reminder, as we get started, the norm of the group is the members of the task force get to ask questions and talk first. We'll go through this. There is always time for public comment at the end, but I do need to call on folks. So I just want to make sure, especially difficult for people watching on Zoom, if everyone starts talking at the same time, it kind of mutes everybody out. And so I'll have to, no, today I won't actually do that, but hit my little gavel, but just making sure that we are making sure everyone can be heard. And I think last time we had a bunch of side conversations and I got some notes after that people could hear.
Ask if everybody signed in.
Oh, yeah, and if folks could sign in on the sheet, especially if you'd like to give public comment at the end, because then the clerks can have your name for the record. So, and the sign-in sheet is over by the big TV, just where I'm pointing. Awesome. Can we please read agenda item 1 into the record? Updates on the progress in the last meeting. Thank you. So we normally have this on the agenda because this is both a task force that is doing some long-term planning and also taking action in the meantime. I do want to share, you don't know this, but since our last task force meeting, we had another of our, hey Peter, no, Peter is here for the record. But since our last meeting, we did have another member of our community, die on North Main Street. So a person was, hit, was getting the median and was hit by someone driving a car while drunk. And so that happened at the intersection of North Main Street and Doyle. So that has happened since our last time together. So I wanted to make sure everyone knew that. Also since then, I want to especially thank Council President Miller. I talked to her the next day and was like, what are we gonna do? Do you have any resources? And so she helped me scramble. We found some resources that were available to try and do some short-term temporary improvements to that intersection. And a big thanks to Sean and also to Nate for hopping on the call with me and Kyle and Trisha to start thinking through what some of those short-term improvements can be. So we don't have a list yet of what that would be, but really appreciate the hustle and also the support of Council President Miller in making and doing a hustle to make sure we get some things done. So I just wanted to share that at the onset that we are taking that seriously. That is the third death at that particular intersection in the last 18 months. Not something any of us are going to take lightly. And yeah, we're working on it as fast as possible. Does anyone else have any better updates that have happened since the last meeting? And we'll go into, just so you know, you'll see here, the presentation is kind of bringing everything together, which was discussed last time. And so, but want to see if anyone has any additional updates since last time for this agenda.
And sure,
Oh, geez.
very briefly, I looked at traffic accident data along the part of the study area from the kind of last meeting, which was May 20th through today. There were 9 accidents in the corridor, including DUI fatality. I don't have a lot of facts about that case, but I can say that was the motorist didn't leave the scene and was charged in the traffic bill. That motorist left the roadway, so the pedestrian was not in the wrong. The person was completely in the right. Yeah, it wasn't even. And the enforcement activities were continued out there. Our numbers have come down a little bit. The officers that are out there aren't finding as many violators. So that same level of enforcement that we've been doing since the fall has continued.
Yeah.
And the department's been pretty much allowing that to move forward. So it's obviously not gonna solve all problems, but we're still out there.
Thank you. One more positive update is, and they're not at the meeting today, but our friends at the Parlor threw a North Main Street block party this past weekend. They closed down a section of 3rd, right where they are, right at North Main. And they had bands, they had like touch-up truck, they had all sorts of fun things for kids and adults. I was there for like the first 2.5 hours, but it went until I got there at noon and it went until like 8. So it was a really great, it's great to see so much like joy on North Main Street and so many like just people milling about and having a great time. So really grateful to our friends at the Parlor for bringing that attention. They shared some of the work of this task force with folks. I got to talk to a lot of people who are really jazzed about the future of North Main and jazzed about, they shared about the local businesses they love, which was mostly Parlor and the Sandwich Hut. And, for that area of town, but it was a really lovely, if folks didn't go, it was a really lovely event. And I think we're going to do it multiple years going forward. So if you missed it, stay tuned for future years. A lot of fun. Any other updates before we jump into the presentation?
This isn't quite an update, but maybe you have one. Maybe others have.
I was gonna kind of add to Lieutenant Brown into speaking to the head of our Office of Highway Safety. I know she's been in contact with the chief about potentially doing like having the Batmobile out, in the North Main Street area, possibly the July 4th period. So I know they've had discussions about that.
Okay. So that's all handled by Captain St. Lucas' shop. Yeah.
So for anyone doesn't know what that is, that's kind of the mobile testing area for, and that just helps the police process things a little faster, right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, so you can, so what they do when they do those type of operations is usually we try to get more officers than normal working, doing DUI enforcement, and we can do pretty much everything we do at the police station here and back in the van. There's I think there's 1 or 2 small holding cells. There's a
Breathalyzer?
Yeah, breathalyzer, I think it's a new name for the one that we have. They have one of those on site. Usually we have officers dedicated just to that. We could even process prisoners inside, just as we would in the station. So yeah, it does kind of expedite that process.
Sometimes just I know communities will get the word out to, hey, they're, because that could deter,
Yeah,
that type
legal
of behavior as
behaviors,
well. Because I know some states you can do roadblocks for checking the Rhode Island. It's not one of the states that can do that, but it just helps with, the enforcement effort. And then, and Providence has been a great partner with RIDA. They use a lot of the money that comes to them to do this type of enforcement, so. That's one update. A couple of days, we are processing some signage work orders for the parking, that we went over during the RSA. So that would include striping as well, as you mentioned about Doyle, intersection of, so been looking into that, and we did, VHB, through the RSA efforts, they were looking at something very similar to what was proposed, so I took that as a very good thing. That kind of all the minds are coming together a little bit, so. When that letter does come in from the mayor's office and from you as well, that'll help us go to the State Traffic Commission to see if we can get that through. I think with lighting, I know city, we've been doing a lot of work on that already, and I definitely want to assist with that, and I've had the VHB as well, kind of. I think that someone go out there at night again recently just to check on what's been, what lighting has been upgraded or what lighting is still not working. So they developed a plan. I think they've submitted to me. I just haven't been able to go through it yet, but I'll definitely share that with you, and then we can talk about next steps on how I can help with whether it's working with Rhode Island Energy or Prism, whoever. How we go through our process essentially, if help is needed.
Yeah, that'd be super.
I know part of that we talked about delineators as well, maybe not only at Doyle intersection, but the other intersections as well, just better delineation signage, because again, a lot of these things happen at night, and that can help with that. So that would be part of any signing reporter we do. I know Rosie, we talked at the end of the last meeting about some PED timing adjustments at Olney. So consultants looking, and our maintenance staff's looking into that now as well, where with the equipment that they have, to see if they can make those changes, and they're gonna do some tests, but I just want to let you know that they are.
So they're doing some counts too.
They're doing some counts as well, so I think that could potentially help with, in the near term with the pedestrians crossing. I know, the road diet conversation's been part of, the RSA, and as part of that, we do need to look at the volume of traffic that's using the roadway and what potential impact that could have, if a road diet was to go. I think that information's key, because we don't want Nate's phone ringing off the hook when traffic's going to other roadways that could create unintended consequences to all of it. So we want to be able to provide that information, and that's kind of a next step with that. So I think that information's coming in soon, and I think it, internally with RIDA, we would discuss it, and I think after that, if there's enough information, we want to pursue discussions with the city, whether that be the mayor, whatever that way is. We definitely want the city to be involved as well, because it's, even though a good portion of that is RIDA owned, a lot of side streets, other roads that can be impacted are city owned, and we want to make sure, and everyone else that may be impacted, other stakeholders have a chance to understand what that could look like. So that's being looked at as well. I think that's all I have for immediate updates.
Sean, question. You mentioned signage. I think somebody sent me a picture of a new no turn on red sign, maybe a version, but do you know anything about no turn on red signage and what's changed?
Yep, so I think, for that intersection specifically, that was approved through State Traffic Commission. With only, even the city-owned intersection, city-owned roadway, the state does own intersection. So we'll bring that, we didn't bring that to SDC at the last meeting, but we're gonna bring that, I think, to State Traffic Commission as part of, at the same time as the other ones, so. And because if we get the exclusive head phasing with that, that could be just good justification.
Yeah, is there any concern with just, rather than doing this one intersection at a time, with like just doing it up and down the roadway and making it consistent everywhere? Like, is there a reason not to just do that all in one push?
I wanted to take a stepped approach, at least with Rochambeau, and again, I think that worked out very, very well, so that was a good place to start. I think it's just how it's justified and how we look at it in terms of like the MUTCD, like the manual that we look at and the reasons for having a no turn on red. In the analysis, we'd have to make sure, knowing what the impacts could be to implement that. So I'm recommending taking the next step to do only, and then maybe from there,
Maybe it accelerates. it
looking
one
at
way.
the other, but
Okay,
I feel taking that stepped approach
Yeah.
is the approach I think could.
sure. I guess in that conversation, a thing I would say is like, maybe we should also be considering the justification for allowing right turn on red, which I know is the thing that came out of like the fuel crisis in the 70s, but rather than framing it as like, what's the justification for taking it away? Like, why are we doing it in the first?
No,
place?
I certainly understand, yeah, there's all, different
Yeah.
ways of looking at it and.
But maybe getting into the conversation as we
Right.
justify it, maybe. I don't
Yep,
know.
no.
And then it's a state road, but now, does that in turn put the city do something on their own while the state's doing that? I don't know. Would that be a legislative issue from the council?
Like if we had a no turn on red citywide, would it apply?
I don't know. if it's
Yeah, no,
applicable. I'm just
I don't know
saying.
either. It could be a good question to answer though, like is that something the city could do on its own?
And would it affect cigarettes? I'm not sure. Crazy.
If we're considering no right turn on red at the Olin Street intersection, is there also consideration for striping and making the where the lanes come in? That, like, yeah, that's like double wide right now. I think that's why people are running the red.
Yeah, so I think we're looking at that more long-term as part of, the RSA, or if there's anything we do sooner we can. Some of that might not require state traffic commission approval, that could just be done again through.
Yeah,
their board.
just figure if you have a striping contractor out there doing daylighting.
We would like to, have them do as much as they can at one time, and not have to come back out. of it.
My bad.
Yeah,
So that's reducing Benefit Street, that,
It
Is
just
that
kinda
the right turn
making it
lane?
more clear that it's coming in.
yeah, so they actually would have to come into North Main Street.
Yeah.
and that we want to make sure we coordinate, you to get Benefit Street.
Yeah,
How
so
that-
I think you just gotta make sure that, I don't know the visibility down that hill. They would have to stop and take a
Yeah.
right onto North Main Street.
I've also noticed the barriers haven't gone back up on
Yeah,
that
we're-
corner,
we're-
but
I wanna make sure about the, because they have to restore that road up to the gas line project in Olin Street, so. I think they said it won't impact the paving, but I just wanna make sure, so that's what's over there. Could be next week.
The only other thing I'll add based on what Sean said is, and shout out to Kyle and Trish. We have, and this will be in the presentation, so maybe I'm segueing, but we have earmarked $50,000 of funding for street light improvements south of Rochambeau. Not because we don't love north of Rochambeau, but the funding is restricted to certain neighborhoods, so it'll be a long, and we'll put in better public property. But that is not available for the new fiscal year, so we will start, which is July 1, which apparently is next week, and so we'll start closing in the public property once that becomes available. Do you have another one? Yeah.
Yeah, first of all, I want to express appreciation for the work on trying to address the Dwight intersection. I know, like as you said, it involved a lot of people who were working on that. Like the Rochambeau exclusive pedestrian phase, this feels a little bit like a thing that's happened in response to another person being hit by a car, right? And this pattern, I think, concerns me. And again, a lot of appreciation for this, and also for the Rochambeau signal retiming. But I don't like the pattern of somebody gets hit and we do something on that spot. I mean, I feel like a lot of what we're tasked with here is making roadways safe. And I really want us to be doing these things more proactively. And I know the RSA is a way to get at that, but a lot of that is going to take time because we're talking about things like moving curb. We're talking about kind of like long-term heavy infrastructure stuff. So I want us to think positively about what are the short-term interventions like this that we can be taking to prevent the next tragedy, so we don't just react to the next thing that happens at the next, wherever it's going to be.
Well, with respect to this last fatality, I don't know what we could do for roadway design if someone leaves the roadway, if it's like, that's even.
Well,
But
part of what we are
that's-
trying to do with
Ooh.
these short-term things is slow people down and increase illumination in the area. So like, if you're going slower, maybe you can die, you know, things like that. Like, how do we just slow people down?
And maybe a car doesn't go off the right way if they're not able to go 50 miles an hour in the first place because the signal timing
But-
is. You know, there are lots of things that you can do to slow a road so that like the consequences are lower when somebody's driving from, right? Like maybe they stay on the roadway, maybe they it's fast. I don't want to.
I'm not trying to be dismissive, I'm just
No,
saying,
I-
like,
I-
that
I
one is
hear
like,
you.
what,
I hear you, but
What are you
everyone
doing?
has an element of like, oh, how do you control for that, you know? So I think I want us to be trying to anticipate like what fundamentally is wrong with this road, and I think speed is a lot of it. Which I know you're working, so, yeah, thank you.
but we are not going to
It's not
solve
enough.
this writing
I know,
tickets,
I know.
which is not.
Maybe that actually does segue us to like how all these things are coming together, unless anyone else has further updating, but so that. Oh, welcome. Before we go to the next agenda item, just for folks who've come in since the beginning, if you do want to give public comment at the end, you need to sign in at the sign-in sheet, which is by, where our new friend is standing. There's a sign-in sheet right there. That's also where you can get copies of the presentation. Yeah. Awesome. Can you please read item number 2 into the record?
Presentation and understanding the scope, budget, and timeline for North Main Street revitalization. Presentation by Councilor Sue R. Inqua, Chair of the North Main Street Task Force.
Awesome. And can I have a motion to enter our presentation as exhibit 1? Yeah. Can I have that motion, please? I'll make the motion. Then move in second. All in favor? Excellent. Anyone opposed? Okay, cool. I have to ask. Claire, do you mind if we switch seats for a minute so I can get your computer?
That's fine.
Thank you. Briefly use the gavel. Like the one perk. Okay, cool. So this came up last time of like, oh, there's a lot of presentations we've had. How does this all tie together? And that was really the impetus of creating the task force, was there's all this stuff happening. How does it all tie together? Where are we going? What are we gonna do? So this is a short presentation. I'm gonna be looking at the screen a little bit to remind myself of what I'm supposed to say, but feel free to like, give me a little back or something if you want to ask a question. I'm the least formal person. Oops, here. Yep, okay, so these are some of the recent studies that pertain to what's going on North Main Street. I also want to acknowledge, well, first, before I can do, I want to acknowledge Kyle and Tricia, who spent a lot of time preparing this presentation, so thank you. Both the content and making it more beautiful than I would be able to do, it would be like real ugly side data. So, also want to acknowledge, so these are some of the recent North Main Street studies. We all know that there have been many over the course of the last 20 years that neighborhood groups have been involved with, businesses have been involved with. There's just been a lot happening. These are some of the most recent things that we've heard about or have seen that are driving our work. And part of the impetus of creating this task force was really weaving together a lot of these things, because there's a lot of planning, a lot of emphasis going on North Main Street right now. And there was a world in which that all happened kind of serially or in silos. And at the end of it, a lot of money and time has been spent with no material impact, like no big changes, just like a little bit of repaving. So I wanted to make sure we had this table to coordinate. So just to walk through real quick, we've got the North Main Street corridor analysis. This was done in 2022. Jeff was part of the driving force behind that. Former Councilwoman Nerva Fortune as well. And you all received copies of this on the first day, but it's really this in-depth analysis of like the vision for what North Main Street could be. We had a really great study, which or presentation by Jamie and the Streets Coalition. Even just analyzing a lot of lighting changes that could happen that are actionable. We've got the high capacity transit corridors alternative analysis, which we learned about from RIPTA in March, which is an ongoing many-month process of what's going to happen with the R line, which includes North Main Street, but it's not only North Main Street. It could use much longer than that, but a key part of North Main is that the R line exists there. We were all part of the North Main Street Road Safety Assessment, which, thank you to our friends at RIDOT for completing with their consulting firm, VHB. They're still working on the final version, I believe, but already taking some action steps. And so this is ongoing and can help guide some of the safety improvements. And then we had some really great reporting from the police, on data that they've been collecting, in order to guide this work. So I wanted to show we had all these things together, and we've looked through all the reports, and the draft RSA, as well as the past reports, and there really are just kind of like 5 areas of convergence and key summaries, which are not going to be a surprise to you guys. It's really showing that everything is really saying the same thing. The increased car speeds, are a major concern. Pedestrian safety and security, there's unsafe conditions, which has caused many accidents, not just the 4 fatalities, but many additional accidents, or crashes, apologies, over the last several years. There's insufficient lighting and illumination, which causes visibility issues, which contributes to the issues. There's a need for infrastructure enhancements, which include sidewalks, crosswalks, intersection reconfigurations. There's a number of these like big infrastructure pieces, and they all contain an element of economic development, really reimagining North Main Street as a more pedestrian-friendly corridor with potentially future affordable housing and additional local business opportunities. So they've all had their similar themes, and so it's really great to see, you know, what we can do together. I changed the slide. It's changed this afternoon. But this is still a really large number, which we're going to dig into in a minute. In the next couple of years, about $6 million could be spent on North Main Street improvement. Right now, you know, as it exists right now, I will hustle my way through finding as much additional funding we can ever get. But that's not a small number, and so we do have some really great opportunity. And this is some of what's here. I'm just going to do this. See what I'm doing here. So we have paving and striping and other mitigation methods. This is through the STIP. Oh no, this is through, oh yeah, this is the STIP. Unfortunately, and I can let Jack say this, we found out today we did not get the USDOT raise grant for the additional planning, which is a giant bummer, but that is what it is. Sometimes you don't get the grants you apply for. So I lost it out. I've committed my community development block grant funding, which is small, but what we have, to fixing some of the lighting. I mentioned that Council President Miller helped us find some additional ARPA funding to help with some short-term improvements. And also thank you to RIDOT for any improvements they might be able to just cover in that intersection. There's the congressional earmark for North Main Street, which could supplement the STIP. We have the Jet Plans is our primary person here. RIPTA has their ongoing project, which includes North Main, again, it's not limited to a North Main, which for the next couple of years will be about a total of $6 million. So just like taking this in, I think this was really helpful for Kyle, Trish, and I just to look at, like, there is a lot being spent and a lot of emphasis on North Main. We could certainly use more, which is really like in planning and design. But like, this is a good place to start. And so this will be the table where a lot of these conversations can happen. That's okay. And then just from a timeline perspective, unfortunately, we did find out when our June goal highlighted, so sad we found out that we didn't get that, but there's ongoing analysis for the regular transit corridor study, and the local preferred transit alternative study. I forgot to cut that part out. So there's, over the course of the next several years, there's kind of ongoing activity that could be happening. And then part of the goal here, I know I'm going quickly, but this is just really to show how things fit together. The sequencing and creating this kind of action plan to align with when funds are available and when we need to be planning versus execution and when they can be taking place at the same time. You know, we're really trying to make sure we understand when and where pots of money are available, who controls those pots of money, and how we plan implementation actions appropriately from a small and large perspective. We'll continue to look for other funding sources as well. And then pointing this out in the RSA defines the immediate, near-term, and long-term. So that's also how we're trying to think about things in the council office, like what can be implemented in the next 6 months? Like what can be done immediately? Some of these like real intersection things, some of the stuff that we're talking about, what only street, what can be done, you know, before school is back into session in September. What's going to take 2 years, but it's kind of still near term, and then what's gonna be longer term. And we've got some great people around the table now, but like, who are the additional stakeholders that we're gonna need to involve moving forward? Right. And then just showcasing all you amazing people at the table. So these are the types of stakeholders who need to be present. We discussed this from the very beginning, that North Main Street, it's just a really complicated street from a governance perspective and in trying to make change on it perspective. That's part of why, that's one of the main reasons we brought everyone here, instead of just being like, boom, 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 we're gonna make the changes. Like there's no one person who can make the changes that people would like to see on their thing. So these are some of the stakeholders, I think you see yourself in here, but we've got government stakeholders. So we've got the city of Providence, which is both the administration, the mayor's team, including many of the departments we have here, police, planning, DPW, city property, and others, as well as the council office and our staff, getting the kind of the project management side of bringing people together. State and federal agencies like our friends at RIDOT, transportation specific stakeholders, that also includes RIDOT, but also BRICTA, and the Streets Coalition, other transportation focused folks, as well as the community and economic development partners. We've got lots of community members involved, as well as local businesses and property owners here. So it's a lot of people who have to be involved to make any changes that we're making. And I'm grateful for you all to be part of it. This is my, I think this is the only graphic I did. This shows you how great I am at PowerPoint, which is not at all. And just to show there are a number of city departments, and I'll just actually go to the next slide, it's better. Okay. That's what it's like. Just share that there's a lot of city departments to coordinate across, and they are all very committed to doing this work together. This is some of the stuff that the city can do and is working on doing. We are taking, just to say, we're taking our role. I can only speak for the council, but I can tell from the way that the administration has really stepped up, we're all taking this incredibly seriously. And so there's just not something we're gonna sit back and like continue to do. Yeah, so I'm gonna leave off with just a few questions here in the end, which is things like knowing that there's all this ongoing and kind of like needs to be sequenced. I would love for us to chat here about how we want to continually communicate our staff to ensure we're staying on track. We meet once a month here. At some point, we might want to supplement this in some way. We might want to like have more or different communication going out between meetings. Kyle, Trish and I have talked about how we can work more regularly with the administration between meetings on executing things. We're just coordinating outside of just the official meeting without a forum, doesn't say that. Definitely without the number of people required, and that it's really important as we move forward that we get as much consensus as possible to move forward on things. We know that there's going to be roadblocks, there's going to be individuals who are less excited about certain parts than others. There's going to be complicated bureaucracy, but making sure that we continue to work together in a respectful way that can really move things forward will be important. And then, you guys know all this, we're working really to make this a Main Street for the community in an economic development sense, as well as really increasing pedestrian safety and the walkability, bikeability, and even drivability of all these movements. So would love anybody's thoughts, first of the task force and then outside of like, the answers to these questions or like anything you're thinking or things we left out that we should add in or nuance or color. I'm gonna stop talking, my voice is so annoying, you guys. I'm just gonna stop now. Yes, Sarah.
Really impressive. Nodding a little bit. Couple quick things from me. One is I have a very brief update on the high capacity project. Most significantly because of less really made now. We're calling it the Metro Connector. Yeah. Metro Connector project. So the project central area and otherwise it is the same project, but excellent better name. And then thinking about grant funding and that sort of economic development kind of broader community vision piece of things. versus applying for the transit oriented development planning grant in association with the Metro Connector project, so it wouldn't be a large amount of funding, but it could sort of complement this work from that angle and the community mobility side. So we'll let you know, I don't be here until.
We live 22nd, water, I know someone's kind of.
Can we be helpful in any way?
Yeah, the planning department's already received the high level scope that we can send to. We start the application. Once we know that there is, we can get accepted, right, where it's. We don't much application. We're saying between 500 and 600 possible.
It is, and the overall, like, nationally, the funding pot is pretty like, so really. Yeah, so. Anyway, it's definitely worth a shot.
Just, preview of our agenda item is that our next meeting, we really wanted to spend more time on that economic development piece, because we're gonna have ProStar join us to talk about, their work they do on transforming to development, and also their work for, like revitalizing Main streets overall. And so that, they're gonna come to our joint meeting, we'll talk about that at the end, but that's kind of another thing.
That's interesting what Rip is doing and what you're talking about. How does this play into potential zoning changes that you do in a comprehensive plan?
Great question. So the other thing which we could have included is that right now is the comprehensive plan for the next, the 10-year comprehensive plan for the city is still being edited. It got through the phase where the city plan commission has passed it, they recommended adoption, and now they've sent it over to the city council. And so that would probably be on our next council agenda, which is the Thursday after July 4th, where we officially receive it. I don't know for sure that's on that agenda, but it's in that agenda, but that's what I assume is going to happen. And that's when we'll officially receive it. And so we will be doing at least one public hearing. I know I will be having conversations within the community, and North Main Street does have, like, North Main Street obviously is on that map, and like could be some. And remember that Bob HR from planning came to our very first or second, anyway, early on to discuss like the zoning around North Main Street as it exists now, and kind of like how changing zoning can help, and also how it can do nothing if the problems can, things like that. So that also, we could include that as well. That's definitely kind of
Yeah, so just to supplement kind of what we're asking, how we continue to communicate internally, there is probably working with Vision Zero initiatives as well. I mean, it's kind of ties a lot of like city picture in there, but it's very relevant here on Main Street. It ties together a lot of the important city stakeholders to talk about a lot of these initiatives, so just throwing it out, that's one.
Yeah, sure.
Continue this in between these.
Oh, that's a really good point. So folks will remember, and then that the city, both the council and the mayor jointly adopted Vision Zero, which is a commitment to zero traffic fatalities or injuries by the year 2030. As part of implementation of that resolution that we passed on council and the mayor signed and agreed to, there's an interagency working group. It's not a public meeting body. It's just like a group of folks who work in the city who get together monthly to work on how we're going to implement that, based on that. Of course, so see more. And so we've been meeting roughly monthly, and we'll also use that body to discuss the updates to the city Bridge Street plan, which will be in the process of being updated next year. So that's also where we play some of that. So some of the coordination.
It's a little more high level.
Yeah, totally.
I'm just gonna say, you've also just so everyone, we have to think in the policy. I grew up in Boston, I think it's really a lot of issues in Boston. I know the Cambridge and Somerville, the Metro Boston, just included the right on right citywide, and they're also part of Vision Zero, and that's what they make for this. So, yeah,
Also, just to show how seriously the council would like, we've got many staff on the council who are like helping with this task force. We don't have that many council staff total, so like we've got the two best and also the 3 hires. So I'm really grateful to hear, but just to show, this is obviously something we're taking very seriously, it's bringing as much muscle as we can. I think I saw a hand over here, was it? Yeah. You, okay, I'm like someone.
Perfect. Can you go back one slide?
Yeah.
And so this is a sort of, I guess, a jurisdiction question, and the second bullet point, the infrastructure enhancements, some of that stuff, can you just clarify that, like, what is the role of the city there?
Oh, yeah, some of this
Right,
is city and some of this is right. So it kind of depends on where we're talking about. So like the lighting, for example, that's the city.
Yeah,
Patching and striping, that would be the state. So some of this is us like coordinating and some of this is things we can do. So we can update this as well. Zoning laws, obviously that's the city. Extended curb line. So some of this is stuff we can do, some of this is stuff that we'll be coordinating with Sean and his team.
That was the only slide I did not.
Okay,
That's why I told him to do the apologize.
fair enough. I have, another question. I think this is just a sort of like, as somebody who's not like a professional in this area, I see these numbers kind of flashing around in terms of amounts of money.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't have a great sense of what that buys, in the absence of the raise grant funding, I guess. If that, somebody can talk, I don't know, maybe Jess or Sean, like what concretely, like what can we afford to do with some of this money? And what can't we afford to do that might then in our sort of nearer term goals if we had got this grant?
Yes, so the raise grant was, I talked with some industry experts, consulting firms about what a reasonable amount might be. Just like sort of back of the envelope experience that we've had in similar corridors. So like the $2-ish million number was the amount to do the engineering and design for the entire corridor. What construction would be of that, honestly, with the way prices are these days, even Rosie probably has no idea right now. So it is unfortunate that we did not get the raise grant for the planning effort. However, I've been in conversation with Camp Crowder and others at RIDOT about using the earmark funding as Sue put in to supplement the $3 million in the paving and striping, to use some of that to, even though we didn't get the raise grant, we still have some money to do design and engineering. Of course, that'll fit in to any amount of construction funding. So we have that 4.5 or so in the SIP that I believe is going to be on an amendment at some point later this year. And then we'll work through the grant agreement. So that's something that we can get started on. So it's right after the SIP amendment through. It will just sort of lower the amount of money that we have for construction at the end of the day. But as we're going through the process, Sue mentioned, consistently looking for other funding, other grant funding opportunities, like we'll continue to think about all the ways. And as we're going through design and engineering and having a better understanding, will help us with implementation grants.
Okay, so I don't know if this is the moment for it, but I think maybe it would be good to have a conversation, given that it seems like we don't have a ton of money to get beyond a sort of design and engineering stage. Does this shift our thinking toward like cheaper, shorter term temporary interventions? I know some of the stuff I saw in the draft of the road safety audit was like the temporary curb lines that you can put, you know, if it's going to be realistically a long time before we're like moving curb lines at intersections, do we put more emphasis on some of those solutions?
I think we put emphasis on everything, and I think the benefit of the assessment is, again, getting everything down, and then kind of from there, what's going forward with is, yeah, what are the costs of that and when that can be done? And again, this project that's in the tip, although, you know, that doesn't mean that's the only project, you know, there could be other projects, sure, as you step, and then there could be stuff that gets done prior to the projects, whether that is as a, you know, trial period, you know, just throwing things out there to get things done ahead of time, you know, just through my, you know, signing, striping, that's that. I think the other benefit of the RSA, which was successful with other projects, is, again, there's most likely other potential funding sources out there. Even, you know, within RIDOT, there's different pots of money. There's, you know, sometimes pots of safety money. So just having that documented, I think could help.
Kind of justify.
It help, and then we know, hey, it really makes sense to do this, this, and this as part of the project. You don't want to do it and then come back 2 years later and rip things up to do. So that could also help bring in potentially bring it and move things around sometimes, and that's really up to the planning, you know, within the city and within DOT, if things need to get moved around, to shuffle, move it around, so to help. with
So
that.
we shouldn't think of these numbers as a sort of like,
No,
like a hard limiter on what can happen.
I would not think that at all. I think this
This is
is,
what exists now.
Yeah,
This is what we know.
this is
we
what
have
exists now, and a lot of
okay.
other meetings I've been to, we didn't have any of this, you know, there wasn't something already
Yeah.
set, so I think that's something, a positive to look at as well.
But
So,
so
hey, we
there's
know something is definitely coming, you know, a lot of people say, well, you guys come up with these plans and nothing happens. We know at least we have money, and I think that will only grow.
But we should think in terms of like, there's other perspective funding that we wouldn't necessarily be able to put down in a slideshow now, but that like is plausible to.
Yeah, let's not throw anything out, because
Yeah, this isn't
we
the
have-
feeling, this is like.
This is
we're
the
walking
one,
down.
this is where we're starting.
Yeah, this is where we're starting, which is, the point of having this slide is like, we're in a good place, like it stinks that we didn't get the 2 million, but like. To start a conversation about how we can put the plan together with $60 million playing around is.
And there's constantly grant opportunities that come out as well, and, you know, the last few years, right up, you know, cities. We have been doing well with getting grant money to come in, so let's go back and continue, and again, having. Things like this, having documents put together of everything, I think helps support.
So that you're not just asking for a bunch of money.
You're not just asking for a bunch of money, they really like it when, hey, we've already been having these meetings, we've gotten this far. This is what we want to do, it only helps.
Yeah, I was wondering, if there are other kind of grant applications underway, like, you know, that there's the Safe Streets for All, like demonstration grant, would this be a good candidate for that? Just as we are still getting our minds around kind of longer term planning and design aspects. to maybe
We did receive a demonstration grant from the Safe Streets. We haven't heard from the OCOT about our grant agreement yet, but it's gonna take a while, and we will have to determine internally with the administration and council so our idea is like the intersection citywide of demonstration projects. We have to decide so internally what the priorities for that are. Given that we didn't get the raise grant from this one, I suspect there will be a lot of interest in potentially doing that with right ops coordination as well. I don't know when the next streets. Yeah, it'll be next year sometime, right? Because the current round, we already got one grant. There's like another application deadline in August that we can go for. But there are 2 more rounds of Safe Streets money allocated through conference, I believe, so. That raises something that comes up every year. There are a bunch of other. That.
I know what Jamie's getting at. He wants to basically see something like ASAP. Right, so I mean, I think we could do too on the cheap, and I've said this several
Yeah.
meetings ago. Some of the slip lane issues that
Yeah.
have come up repeatedly, North Main and Only, Main and Shannon going north. North Main at Branch, when you're going southbound and take the right. You could put concrete barriers there. I know they don't look nice, but you could just put them there by lunchtime tomorrow. See if it has an impact.
And this is
It's
not
ugly.
what I was getting at.
Yeah, okay, and I'll say that. No, there are things that you could do that aren't really gonna cost the city any money at all right now. It's temporary thing. And you could see
And they may not be pretty,
You
but
could
we
see-
can follow, yeah.
legislatively, that's something the city could want to do about no turn on red.
Sorry, it's here on the side.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, no, it's okay, I used to use the concrete barriers like narrow release.
Yeah, we're blocking those.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, so like a branch.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's right.
So the one at Branch and North Main, though, you may have to change from.
Yeah, you have to like,
thing
that
to
would actually require some, like.
A little bit, but I mean, you could try some of those things in the short term. I mean, I know North Main and Only the break is, coming with Branch and North Main, we were talking about that, the delineators are not in yet because of the paving project. But you could even just forget the delineators, just put a concrete barrier.
Water barrels.
It's like stuff that we already have that we could just move there.
Yeah.
So there's real cost.
Yeah, yeah.
Also, there's studies done that show that the more narrow a lake is, the slower cars tend to drive. I don't know if you guys have driven down Blackstone Boulevard, but there's only one lane you go straight. And every time I drive down Blackstone, everybody's always going to speed limit. It's just, and also it's really pretty. And like, you kind of want to drive slow because it's really nice to look at everything. I know that's a future one of these people, but just, you might even put like, and there's parking underneath too, which I don't know if they possibly even down the road in the short term, it's kind of physical barrier. We find that, so people are slow.
One consideration that we have on our committee that's different from last round is for the buses.
No, I know, yeah. But it's That's true, yeah. Different. Yeah,
No, it's a good idea, it's just all the different pieces.
We'll get to the final in a second. Any other thoughts or comments about this in particular? Not that, like this, how we're weaving things together. Cool. And so we'll internally follow on some next steps and have this coordinate. In the meantime, our next meeting will be, it's not that we're not going to continue in the background to be focused on road safety. I want to make sure everyone knows that. This will continue, and we'll have some updates hopefully by the July meeting, but the July meeting will be more focused on some of the economic development and like means you can feel kind of stuff. And then this is a task force run by City Council. The City Council has August is our recess, and so we do not meet in August. Last year I did schedule meetings in August. I felt really bad because the clerks work so hard, and then they get like 1 month to like not have to work at night. So we will not be meeting in August. I've already but we'll pick that up again in September. But we will meet in July and have that both updates and a conversation to kick off economic development and revitalization efforts as well. In the meantime, I'm also going to reach out to each of you individually to see if there are additional things you'd like to see us tackle at these meetings, or like agenda items or ways you'd like to see us move forward, things of that. So just expecting it from me. I'll probably bring either high is there. So great. But before we move to public comment, does anyone have any additional questions around the table, questions or comments or thoughts and steps?
Just to highlight, like you said, again, continuing meetings, internally, we are working, there is a vision zero meeting, actually meeting this week, both more, and there is a coordination between our office, right, and the traffic, so there are individual moving pieces internally, but we are moving into.
Awesome.
I have a sort of a timeline question in the RSA. I guess it's maybe more a question for you, Nate. At the last meeting, we talked about it maybe going through multiple drafts, and I understand we only have one more meeting before the end of the summer, so that's not going to be the subject of a meeting, but we have further opportunities to sort of weigh in on the subsequent drafts offline. In the meantime.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we were waiting with Soul Wing just to make sure that everyone was able to get their comments in. I think you did give a little extra time, because I think that some people did request a little extra time to provide comments. They're working through the addition revisions now, and we're not gonna send that out. This is the final. There's gonna be iterations, because I do want to make sure that everybody's heard and people have a chance to review the people that are part of the RSA.
But it may be finalized before we have another public meeting where we talk about details of what's in it, right? Or possibly.
Well, I think I want to give the consultant, I can send out to everyone the timeline is. Yeah,
I guess I'm just kind of curious.
I think in the next few weeks, they should be able to address the comments that have come in and then send out a revised draft. And then we want to give, whether it's a couple weeks to review it again. And any additional comments that come. It's all based on the comments. How many. So, potentially you could look at end of summer having a final, or if it goes into fall a little bit, but I don't think that takes away from the effort, right? I think we can still move forward with things.
I guess one thing I'm curious about, like, will there be another like public draft before the final draft, or was the last one kind of public viewing and then the rest happens kind of behind the scenes?
I don't, and we can definitely discuss how we want to do that. This is kind of unique to the process. So, we can certainly figure that out, but I'm not gonna say no. I'm not gonna say.
Okay.
Say yes.
Thanks.
Well, any other topics members want to say? Awesome. So I'm gonna open it up to, public comment. Join to begin this record, can you read the public comment, agenda item 4? And thanks to everyone who signed up. So the first person who signed up is Michael English.
I went into my Google. So I got actually a couple of issues, as everybody talked. But first, the barriers, I think you should do something with Doyle. I watched Doyle between the elderly, the homeless, the traffic that goes across with the children, the dark clothes and the dark streetlight itself, coupled with very delicate.
Yeah.
You need to do something. I think the officer is 100% correct. I think you should do something temporary, if nothing else. I think they should do the New Jersey barrier, the orange ones that aren't as bony as the concrete. Because the light reflection of the headlights, how you're not gonna stop drinking and driving fatalities. However, the lights hitting those reflectors might wake up someone that's drunk. It might give you some hope. Now that coupled with the discussion of Blackstone Boulevard used to have buses going up and down that street. I think her idea is something that you should really truly think of. Bottlenecking and connecting certain spots in North Main Street was probably one of the best ideas, more than speed bumps. I went over, I emailed you, I went over 7 going to the hospital just the other day, and it's a very painful thing. When you can steer do a bottleneck down for the buses, you could actually make that bottleneck out of the bus route to where, just like in downtown Providence, out in front of here, you just got a lane for buses only. Outline it straight down, buses only. You didn't reduce it in case there's any wheel running a business going on. You still have a full loader on the street, but for the regular normal traffic, you just made it one way up and one way back, and you just reduced a lot of the speed. And like she said, when I was a kid, you went 100 miles an hour down Blackstone Boulevard. And they reduced it to 1 lane, you're going the speed limit. Makes sense to maybe do something a little bit than normal, and again, you're not really reducing it. Just making other spots for different uses, so like a bus going up and a bus going back, only for buses only. Again, but if you really need to make that turn, they still make it. It doesn't really do anything. But I also think that what we should do is where those spots are, Doyle, a couple other spots on nothing. You need to repeat the white lines. It's very diffused, very hard to see. They should have some type of little reflectors.
Yeah.
Again, so the lights hit those reflectors, it's gonna make people realize you're in the wrong lane. I watch just normal people get it mixed up at night because you can't see.
Yeah.
And it's gonna kill someone again. You're here to save lives. We've been in here, now it's now 4 deaths. Since you started this, it's been 3. We should do something now, not wait for later. You've got the emergency batteries, throw them up. What do you got to lose? It's in the storage unit.
Yeah.
Won't cost too much. You'll see what gets who doesn't, and see how much it reduces fatalities or even injuries. Because even though we don't hear about the injuries, there's probably a lot more injuries than we hear about. So that's all I have. Thank you.
And the reflectors are part of the traffic plan, so we'll follow up as soon as that's all done for the traffic commission, but reflectors and things like that are part of what the unit trial should include. Okay, Katrina?
Katrina Dunling. I'm a small business owner and I live in Collegeville, near North Main Street. It's my first time coming to one of these staff board meetings. So I wanted to point out, if you walked the 1.5 miles on North Main Street between Greg's Restaurant and Whole Foods, it's mostly this quarter.
Yeah.
It's a 34-minute walk. If the transit and you get lucky, it's 13 minutes. If you catch the bus, if you bike, it's 13 minutes. If you drive the speed limit, it's 6 minutes. The city and state keep saying, you noted the studies for 20+ years, that they want to encourage more people to walk, bike, and take transit. That means you want to encourage more people to take 13 to 34 minutes to move along this corridor. But what I actually see happening is a refusal to commit to changes that lead to car drivers taking longer than 6 minutes to travel this space. By the inaction, it's saying the city and state is still prioritizing cars driving at least highway level of comfort and efficiency on North Main over human life and the greater well-being and prosperity of the city. It really appears like the leaders don't want to make changes that make drivers complain at you, but I'm a driver. I mostly drive my SUV around the city and I am currently complaining at you.
Yeah, please.
This urgent action is needed. We really need to fix the design of North Main Street so people stop dying. It needs a road guide. It needs to stop being discussed. 100%. It needs a road guide. It's proven study after study, less lanes of one-way travel is what hurts. With 2+ lanes, it's designed like a highway, and people are getting killed and injured because of it. So please do something about it. As others have already said today in this meeting, plastic cones, plastic barriers, lane closure signs are pretty cheap and temporary to throw up to start seeing what happens. Please really start piloting lane reduction changes and measures to make drivers feel less. Thanks.
Thank you. But Alex, yes, okay, cool.
Alex, yeah, if I show up enough times, you'll figure it out.
Sorry, I'm like terrible at reading handwriting, it's like,
Yeah, it's.
like for tonight, yeah.
Yes, my name's Alex, I live in Collegeville as well. One of the things I want to talk about is the pedestrian crossing times are way too short, all along North Main Street. So I live near North Main Street, Doyle, and just crossing, North Main Street and Oldie, just crossing Oldie. There's a slip lane with an island on it, and my, one of my coworkers, my supervisor, she has 3 kids under the age of 12, 2 of them go to school nearby there, I think it's MLK. But they're small kids, their legs are not very long, they can't walk fast enough to cross Oldie, and that's a very narrow crossing as it is. They basically have to sit there at the island with rush hour traffic in the summer heat, hoping they don't get hit, sitting there baking in the sun, and then they have to go across again. I go on walks all the time, up North Main Street, usually to Cypress or maybe a little bit farther, but I know going up to Doyle, the initial crossing, look, the crossing timing is okay, you get like 35 seconds or something. The problem is that it overlaps with the green light, and it's a very long crossing. And there's basically a runway for the right turn lane to go up there. So drivers pick up speed. When I cross, I have to look over my left shoulder the whole time because I don't know if someone's gonna be, looking down or text they just got and sneaking up on me from behind. So I've noticed that this a lot with a lot of the crossings, not just on North Main Street, even South Main Street, near the Trader Joe's. The crossing times is way too short for pedestrians. And there have been times where it's like I'm just stuck on an island waiting there, and I hope no one will hit me. Or the timing runs out, and because they overlap with the green lights with the drivers, I have an awkward moment where someone's tapping the intersection, slams the brakes, and they see me there. And it's super uncomfortable, it's very dangerous. I'd like to take a proactive approach to it because I don't like this approach of, every time there's a fatality at an intersection, then we act on it. We can stop it right now, we can prevent it. And it's it's not as eye-catching to be sort of these quiet changes, but you think about it in terms of the lives saved. If you do this, you'll save 10 lives over the next 10 years. Something like that. So I think, the timing really needs to be changed. Ideally, we'll have longer crossing times and we'll have exclusive pedestrian spaces wherever we can. I agree too with the slip lanes. We can close them off really easily with concrete barriers, with cones if we need to narrow them off, just like sort of really cheap, easy things to implement, really modular. We can move them around if we need to. That kind of stuff is nice. And even if it's ugly at first, I've seen it in cities where they do these sort of improvements in phases because it's a really cost-effective approach. Where you can test it out. Okay, if this arrangement doesn't work, we'll try a new arrangement. If this arrangement does work, we'll put concrete planters filled with flowers for a year or two till we get the budget to fill it in. Maybe in 5 years, we'll have a really nice pedestrian space there. So I think that these kinds of approaches are really nice and simple and straightforward. And most importantly, they make the city a lot more pleasant. Because North Main Street is kind of a miserable place to walk. It's just a lot of concrete, a lot of traffic. I have another question here, is a bit more broad, but you're talking about the 2 goals for North Main Street. One of them is the 2 priorities that you have. One is pedestrian safety, but the other one is improving traffic.
No, that's not one of the goals.
Oh, no, that's not the first.
No, the goals for this task force are the improvement of pedestrian safety as well as the economic revitalization, particularly a lot of the empty lots we see along North Main Street. So wanted to clarify that. I don't know if some members of the task force might have a priority of like improving traffic flow, but that is not.
Well, it says here in this presentation,
Okay.
the execution to accomplish 2 main goals, and one in blue, improve traffic flow and pedestrian safety.
Okay. That might just be an oversight, that wasn't.
Yeah, I think kind of when we could track, like, if we were more thinking of like, I feel like worded it better, I apologize, if we were more thinking of traffic flow and then like having a streamlined one lane for cars sort of thing, I definitely worded that very poorly, I apologize, that is not the goal.
Because I want to make sure.
No, it's like, make it a highway,
That's
that's
something in my mind, I always try to think of pedestrian safety, like I'm 28, I only got my license last month.
Yeah.
I was pedestrian, yeah, so like, yeah, oh, good luck, it's not that bad, I completely agree. Yeah, so I always try to think of improving traffic flow in my mind, when I write that, I apologize again. I was thinking of like streamlining cars in one lane and making them go slower. That was not clear, that was totally good.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
worries. I reviewed this, I take full credit for everything that's in here.
I just want to make sure that we
Yeah,
have fun.
that was-
It's not about like how quickly we can get people to do that.
Yeah.
It's about like how do we safely have.
Yeah,
It will continue to be a road that cars use, we want that to be safe, but we want it to be accessible for people.
very concerned, my.
But thank you for bringing that, my husband is a formal semanticist, so I know like specific words like super matter, and
Yeah.
I don't think that. Okay, Noreen?
Noreen?
Yeah, is that you?
Yeah.
Okay, can you say your full name? I can't read your last.
Noreen.
Excellent, Noreen Turner, do you want to share your comments? If you have them?
I live on a east side, I live over in North Main Street. And one of those 4 houses.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, and it's really big. I mean, I live like with Stanbro, Evergreen, but I go from Evergreen to with Stanbro, and I catch the bus, and I catch the river. Yeah, some of the people that drive, they interfere with the crosswalk.
Yeah,
See, they go past the red lights, so I don't know when to cross the street. And at night, it's really dark over there. Yeah, I'm saying, we got dark from Stanbro all the way to Shell Gas.
yeah,
And on the opposite side of where Walgreens is, it's the right there when it's dark.
yeah.
And my mom paid one, she lives like behind the shelf, and she won't come over a lot. You know, I got hit almost first.
Yeah,
And I see a lot of police officers over there, but when people are going through red lights, they're not get out, opposite side of the street, stop. So when they go this way, they're doing like 75 to 80. This is every day that I want to drive.
yeah,
I have a 4-year-old granddaughter, I just want to take her for a walk.
yeah.
I'm not scared. And it takes me like maybe 15, 20 minutes to like cross the street at Tower 8.
Yeah,
If I go, because I'm scared to cross the street.
yeah,
Because that, what's the fatality?
Yeah.
But he was still right there.
yeah,
Yeah, and he was, his mom had died the day before.
yeah.
Yeah, and he's helping me with stuff out of the pot. I can scared out of it, it's dark.
Yeah.
That's what is my street, it's dark.
And you're on everything?
Yeah, it's like everything, but I'm off everything, sure.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, it's dark over there. I don't know what they plan on doing, but they need to do something quick.
yeah, no, thank you. And Kyle and I are working on the lighting for Shenango South, because we have some funding for it, a little bit of free lighting. Over the next couple months, if that funding becomes available, we have to really right to the Shenango plans.
Yeah. Dark. If you do that, like, across the street at night, and the school grades down, all over. And then that's this great, like, 85, 90 miles per hour down here, North Main Street, and then they're racing.
Yeah,
And I'm like, this is very bad, it's weird. So I don't, something needs to be done quick.
yeah.
About the ladies. Yeah. Thank you.
No, thank you. Cameron? Yeah.
Wayland. Drive like all the city. I think a lot of people don't fundamentally understand how dangerous North Main Street is because most of the people in power and people like IDOT, ED, governor, et cetera, they can't even take the train on the Tucket train station. When I read an article, they couldn't even take the train back into it. So I think that kind of sentiment is something we tend to hear in this room. I think I want to make everyone aware of the National Roadway Safety Strategy, which was published in 2022 by USDOT. I'd like to know also within that they have a safe system approach, which is 6 principles that will guide US DOT policy. Death and serious injuries are acceptable. Humans make mistakes. Humans are vulnerable. Responsibility is shared. All stakeholders, including government, all levels, advocacy researchers, and the public, are vital together. Preventing fatalities and serious injuries on roadways. Safety is proactive. Proactive tools should be used to identify and address safety issues in the transportation system, rather than waiting for crashes to occur and reacting afterwards. It's not something that this task force has done, and frankly, I think it's shameful. I don't want to go further in my language, but I think it's shameful. Redundancy is crucial. Reducing risks requires that all parts of the transportation system be strengthened so that if one falls apart, the other still there to protect people. I think it's great today that everybody's been talking about emergency measures, like Officer is talking about, as well as others, like Jamie and also Michael. So I think that's fantastic. I don't think that that's been the Senate of Consumer until now. So I think that's a fundamental shift. I would say this, that the policy of the USDOT is vastly changed. States have been quote, very slow. Some states have, like Washington, that are committed to using the National Roadway Safety Strategy. I want to make sure that the city of Providence, our RIDOT and RIPTA also commit to using the National Roadway Safety Strategy. That may be a part of Vision Zero commitments, it may not. But that's something that seriously has to be looked at, as well as I know that the what's your name? Sean. I know Sean talked about the guide, basically the plan or the document that's used, which is the MUTCD. That is sort of just a few options to be used as a plan. I know that there is now, since 2021, the Act of the Street Sign Guide. Is that being used in the RSA, and so with the analysis?
Yeah.
It is.
It's multiple different, not just METC, but we.
Yeah, so I want to just emphasize the importance of referring to the most fail-safe mechanism when you have overlays of policy plans, because I think it's not been something that I've seen proactively done thus far. I think that we need to ensure that we prioritize the users first, rather than, I think some of the sentiment, at least in the city, maybe also in some of the discussions here have been, oh, what's going to happen to car drivers?
I will say that it's not the sentiment of this task force, but it is a.
Yes, and I think it's something that is a bias that we all share. Frankly, I share on team still, and I think it's something I have to negate. So I want to make sure that we prevent that being a sentiment, because let's be real, if something can save car drivers and not risk safety, we do it. But these are zero-sum games at the end of the day, and there's a Highway 95 that is adjacent to this roadway. That's a huge win that most places don't have, and I don't want us to forget that either. So I'm very happy to see what's going on, especially with safety measures. I really hope that we can go further and talking about bump outs. I think, temporary bump outs are something that can be possible when it comes to barriers. Hopefully it doesn't obscure the vision of shorter pedestrians, but I think we need to be thinking about ways to narrow intersections as well. I don't know whether that's something that's been talked about, so I really hope that we can move further with that. And we'll see. I really appreciate everyone's great work here.
Okay, we've got 2 folks left for public comment. We got Val.
And now we're to another Mars Ave, and my bus stop is first of all in Plain, and I used to think, and the other bus stop is on. But anyway, I really appreciate this particular task force and the work that you're doing in the practice of the businesses represented here. But I'd like to speak particularly to people in the room working government agencies, with my personal city products and love, and from state government agencies. I want you to think about how we got here by measuring cars and not measuring people. We who live without a car, move about the city in a different way than people who work in cars. The people in the police department are sensitive to that. You see me trying to cross the street, and there's some construction work going on, officers usually try to help me with that. This is a people problem. People who are trying to go to their business, approach your business who are not a car, it's a whole different thing. The data collection that preceded all of this came from government agencies, but it also came from change. Other people doing individual data collection work. I want you all to go back to your agencies and to your parts of government with the new commitment that we need modern data collection. We are a modern, growing, exponentially growing city. And we need modern data collection. We probably need to constantly do aggregate cell phone data about this busy street. Who's there? Are they on a scooter? Is it about who's only walking and taking the bus? Is it somebody who's on a bike? Is it somebody who's in their vehicle? How are we all moving about? Because if we're assessing all of that, and if we're assessing all of that, then we can make the decisions that promote safety. From the get-go, that promote safe ways for all customers to get into places of business, unlike me, who want to get to. I'm worried that we don't take the message of modern data collection back to our agencies with one voice. Some of that data already is there. We're not using it, that drives me nuts. But anyway, it's better, right? Then I'm thanking all of you for the dedication here. This is gonna save, you probably already saved my life before you go on our plane. No question. Probably already did, Sean, save my life. All right? Keep doing better. Thank you so much. Think about it.
Last but not least, Lila.
Hi, everyone. Like, this is the conference here in the coalition. I understand public comment is not really usually a Q&A, but I do have some questions for Sean. That's okay. Thank you to the entire task force. Just wanted to revisit a question, the briefly mentioned like other costs of write-off funding. And I know that there are formula funds, TAP and CRP and the VRU set aside now within HSIP, which is only for states that have a certain amount of pedestrian fatalities, which is definitely us. And it's like very, very difficult for community members to track that funding or like see where it's going. It's also, I don't want to advocate for grabbing more of that funds than would be equitable for North Main Street, but because I haven't published statewide crash data, we don't know where all the pedestrian crashes are going. So what should be the highest and best use of that area funds? But like, I'm wondering, is there a possibility of some of the formula funding for TAP VRU, CRP going to this project? And is that a possibility? And then B is like, how do we know what where that money is going first? I know that there's sometimes public meetings around tip development, usually once a year around this time of the year. I've never kind of seen notice of that for this year, but certainly if that's an opportunity to advocate for funding. So that's my question.
And do you feel like you can answer that to feel welcome, and if you feel like you need to follow up, it's not just 1 minute right out, it's like you want to follow up.
Yeah.
It could probably be a combination of the two. You know, I know a lot of the funding is through our planning office, which we kind of separate from that. I'm in the office of safety, so I can't give you the details on that. But I know there's, I believe, monthly TAC meetings and often updates to the amendment, tip amendment that occur. So I could definitely reach out to Pam Potter from our office. get more detail on it. But I think short answer is, like what we were talking about before is, there could be opportunities for different pots of money, and HSIP is one of those pots. And we submit annually, our annual report, which that kind of goes into where that funding is going and percentage wise, and we try to mirror, you know, what we see for trends, going to vulnerable with more money, and then more money is going towards vulnerable users. Like you said, we try to be systemic as well. You know, obviously North Main Street, we do have a cluster, but generally, again, just fatalities in Rhode Island are generally low, so you don't get a lot of clusters. So we try to be more systemic where we use that money where we can, and that just making similar type improvements. Like on top, you know, this type of project is definitely much bigger. It's a corridor, and I think we're kind of going. I feel personally, you know, speaking myself, like in that direction where there's a lot of those high risk corridors, particularly in cities like Providence, Newport, where you're kind of dealing with the tourist aspect of it. Other areas like that where we kind of have to start tackling those as well, and that takes a lot more than just RIDOT, and so that's why I'm very happy having this type of forum. Not only do you get task force members from different stakeholder groups to provide that input, but you also get the input from the public at each meeting as well, and it's complicated, and I see that, and everyone sees that as well in terms of not just from an engineering standpoint, for everything as well. There is, you know, behavior that goes into it. I want to make sure that gets captured too, but probably starting around a little bit, but short answer, yes, I can follow up, and the annual HSIP report, we submit to Federal Highway every year, so it is published online. If you just Google HSIP annual report, well, like previous years will come up. I'm not sure when they publish it based on when we submit it in August, but generally within a few months.
Hey, that was our last comment. Signed up. Yeah, I said it multiple times that you need to sign up. Sorry, I can't always be.
The only time I get to say sign up, or sitting here, I didn't want to keep welcome to.
I think I said it 2 times. And so since I told everyone else, I don't want to give anyone special. I think I did that last time, so just want to make sure everybody's the same. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Excellent. Like we're not. Second, excellent. All in favor? Any opposed? We're adjourned, and we'll see you July.
July 17th.
July 17th sounds correct. 5:30, well, participation from. Marissa. Bill.